Welcome to Coloring Crypto and the Great Gestation. I'm your host, Gabe Colors. This is part one as we define the summer of 2018 in crypto as the Great Gestation.
So I'm totally with you, and I think that's exactly the mood. So a lot of the apocalyptic noises that we're hearing are from what I would call late-coming speculators.
The prices of cryptocurrencies are down. Hype has chilled. Tangible blockchain solutions that could impact our lives have yet to be delivered. I called on former guests and friends to ask what I thought was a simple question. What's happening with crypto in the summer of 2018? The responses left me feeling, well, decentralized and accused of sounding apocalyptic.
Yes, I certainly agree. It's my broad mindset that, gestation is probably a valuable way of looking at it.
That was Miko Matsumura, who will round out the future episodes of the Great Gestation series. But for today, for now, we're starting in the middle with interviews from two really good friends who beautifully contrast the trading perspective and the bigger vision of what blockchain could deliver. He crushed it last year, investing and mining.
What I was doing, which was like the high rate of return proof of stakes, which is kind of like a experiment in cryptocurrency and like what kind of like crazy returns can you get.
She's just a well-connected visionary. Rebecca has worked with nonprofits for decades and in our conversation coins the phrase decentralized success.
I want to start to hear voices that are people of color talking in this space. I want to hear people that are in more of the, what you would maybe call the developing world, but I want to hear more of those voices and what is crypto doing in different countries.
She also calls it the fact that this whole revolutionary tech movement is still dominated by white males. Access equality. This is part one of Coloring Crypto's Great Gestation. Yesterday, Rebecca, I had lunch with my college girlfriend.
No, yeah.
It was so funny because she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, cryptocurrency. She's like, isn't cryptocurrency all bullshit? And I was like,
yeah. My
response to her was like, well, Bitcoin, all the examples right now, we don't know. Maybe they are bullshit, but the concept, the core concept, I fully am bought in on.
Uh-huh.
It's the middle of 2018. What is happening? How long are we going to just gestate?
Totally. No, I love it. I mean, I think
this is like a classic bottom of the bear market. Like these are the emotions that come up. If you look at that like Wall Street cheat sheet, this is so classic. This is why you see so many OGs being like sarcastic about the whole thing and laughing at people who are pulling out left and right because it's just waiting for the right catalyst,
How has your perspective evolved? What have you learned? What's opened your eyes that you didn't expect in the last 6 months?
I think just more of like the macro perspective of as being someone actively trading in it, to know that when shit gets like super euphoric and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like that is just when you sell.
Do you think people that understand how the cryptocurrency's values are changing have a better insight into the actual potent, life-changing ability of the blockchain as a technology in our lives?
I think the way blockchain will disrupt the world right now is separate from the market.
What are you most stoked about in terms of impacting us that the blockchain could provide?
Oh, geez. I mean, like the ideal would be to disrupt the entire banking industry, even just as like a store of value, as where they put their savings. By pulling money out of the banks, you're pulling money out of investing in, so many of the industries, large industries that we consider evil, that are like destroying worlds. I think we're going to see massive disruption as blockchain matures,
Are we talking like 6 months, 6 years, 20 years?
I would say years. I think really the only model we have is the rise of the internet.
What has made you open your eyes, or what resource, or where would you turn, or where would you suggest people turn or look in terms of like websites or Twitter or people to follow? Who's going to be a guiding light of making sense of this whole thing?
Oh man, I don't think there's any one place. I haven't seen any. I've looked for like the golden prophet of the whole thing, and I just haven't found that. I think
I feel like the people that are talking don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and the ones that aren't talking might know.
Yeah, I think people get so worked up and like needing to act and like do stuff on the day-to-day to maintain their investments. Like the much more relaxed way to do it is just to act on those larger cycles, and you're all good.
That's so interesting because you're somebody who actually didn't do that for so long, for like a year. I mean, you spent like 20 hours a day.
I think you were the first person that introduced the term like proof of stake to me. But like as I've gotten involved, so much has changed. Like how has that shifted over the last like? Give us your state of altcoins and proof of stake and all that stuff.
Then like I think the market itself has moved away from like these really high rate of return proof of stake coins to these really high rate of return master nodes, and that's what you're seeing a lot more of. And so it's more like trends. It's like similar to fashion trends.
Your tone of voice is if like, yeah, it's all the same. It's kind of like, it's changed a little bit, but like, really? Like, really? To me, it feels
different.
It seems so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's the same, just that like it's a trend. So I think when you look at any time the pendulum swings, we swung way out far on the other side, and everyone and their brother and sister and grandpa and grandma had a coin they were coming out with, or an ICO or something. I could literally name off like 20 friends that, have a coin that they're coming out with, or that they're repping for, or that they're posting, And I think like what I think happened was that most people actually heard about cryptocurrencies and like blockchain and Bitcoin and whatnot right before it hit its top, and everyone kind of got in. And that's like similar to like what you saw happen with the real estate market and with the stock market. It's almost as if everyone found out about it when everybody was getting those houses at 0% down, and you saw all those annoying shows with like Jack LaLanne, money making machine, like you can buy 20 houses tomorrow and only pay $20 or whatever it was. And that's when a whole bunch of people got on board. And so there's this natural state with the pendulum swing that it has to come back to a little bit more of center. So you're seeing like, I think we're going to see a lot of coins die, and a lot of like, some good ideas that are going to like fizzle out. And some of these, pyramid schemey kind of similar things are going to fade away, and then the things that are really rooted and grounded and have a long-term sustainability plan and are actually going to be for the long haul are the ones that are going to stay strong and start to rise up. Start to hear more about those. But
Rebecca, what is the coolest idea, or like not even cool? What solution are you most excited about in the blockchain?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think that like what I'm passionate about in general is about access equality, and like that's taken so many different forms.
Say that again.
Access equality.
Access equality?
Yeah. Why you may not know that is like it kind of seems broad, because for 10 years of my life, what that looked like, it was literally bare bones basic needs of survival, and making sure communities had access to that. And that looked like food and water for a long time. And then dealing with homelessness and making sure people had their basic needs of survival met. And then 10 years in that world, what I started realizing was that it goes so beyond that like if we're going to actually shift things in the nonprofit sector, if people are still dying from not having basic needs of survival met for my entire lifetime and that hasn't shifted, there needs to be a new solution. And what I'm seeing right now is like the access is really access to, I don't know, I'm interested in like how we can decentralize success. How I've watched so many people that decentralizing success. Like I've seen so many people who have really great ideas, right? I mean, I can think of, I've actually myself had like ideas in my like idea book that later on I see other people create and they become multi-million-dollar companies, right? And I'm sure we see this around the world. Like so much of that success becomes who you know and becomes like who you're connected to and who you're, you know, like if you just know the right person that can actually bring it to the next level and create that app to actually make it go or whatever it is. And so I'm really interested in seeing how we can make it easier for people that are in different parts of the world that maybe aren't born into the same privilege, and don't have like, you know, didn't go to the Ivy League school and how we can get them access to being able to make their ideas go.
Decentralized success. First I was like, what the fuck? And now I'm picking you up. So decentralized success. Did you make that up or is that a known phrase?
No, I just said that.
What I'm feeling like is the drastic spectrum of these like super Lambo dude, like rich cryptocurrency guys, and the far end of the visionary, we're going to fucking transform society, Internet 3.0, blockchain. I'm actually trying to push a point that there is no gestalt right now. It's a scatter plot. I'm trying to paint a picture of like, hey, middle of 2018, guess what? We had no idea.
I think that at least like in the Western world, what I saw was a lot of people who got into cryptos and either people who already had money, who had, you know, I feel like I saw a lot of cannabis money go into cryptos. I saw kind of like a phase of time where, you know, I got to say, I saw a lot of kind of like the trust fund hippies. Like I have a lot of friends that are in that realm and a lot of like burners that made a lot of money quickly and, you know, and then like went to Puerto Rico and they're like starting some companies or whatever it is that they're doing to try and like keep the money, you know. And where I think we kind of got away from is like looking at like what this can actually do to impact our planet in a really positive, sustainable way. I mean, I was reminded of it yesterday, like literally just yesterday, a woman I work with in Ethiopia contacted me and she was like, hey, is there any way that you can pay me with cryptocurrency? Because I'm right now working for my family, but I have to send money to my mother. And if I send money through Western Union, they take 20% off the top. And so it's like, if you could pay me in crypto, that 100% of that money goes right to her. You know, I've worked with a lot of people from Latin America and Mexico and, you know, where in the farm industry as well. And a lot of them are working really fucking hard to, you know, send money home to their families so their families can thrive. And same thing, if you want to send money home, you know, what are the ways that you do that? And how much is the bank taking? And how much is Western Union taking? And I think like being able to take it away from that so that we're getting a little bit more of a level playing field, being able to have control over your dollar and really looking at the impact of like what that dollar means and who are you really supporting with your dollar when you're putting it in big banks? You know, what are you really saying yes to? And like being able to decide that on your own and being like, no, I really don't want to support any fossil fuels. I don't want to support GMOs. I don't want to support these things. And I actually get to make a choice around that. And, you know, what was the statistic just is like if 1% of people just put their savings into cryptos or into, I think it was Bitcoin that you were reading.
Yeah, just like the numbers you're playing with, there's just ridiculous upside for the actual risk of investing, especially right now.
Okay, adoption is down. Adoption is actually down. What you just said, Justice, totally legit and smart and insightful. But if I asked you 6 months ago, you might have said the exact same thing. How would you attempt to classify or define what is happening with crypto in the middle of 2018?
Well, we're talking just from like an adoption and like a price standpoint. I think, you know, that was like people coming back and like getting together for the holidays and being like, oh my God, I just made like this much. This is got to be like a good investment. And it was CNBC starting to push it, and it was starting to get mainstream attention. And then you had, those who have been holding from 2011 and 2013 who just made millions of dollars dump on all those new people. When in reality, there was really no like greater news that there was any more adoption or anything that would suggest that it should go up.
How will this time be looked at? Can we call it the station?
It is because there hasn't been any clarification about how it's going to be regulated or adopted.
As you were talking, are you thinking more about currency or like actual products that are built on the blockchain that are solving problems?
Yeah, more currency. I mean, I think blockchain will be adopted no matter what. The big question, how blockchain is going to be adopted. Do these companies that are starting up the crypto world right now stand a chance, or are companies like Amazon or these other giant companies just going to make their own blockchain solutions?
There's something going on right now that's so unknown and unpredictable and potentially malleable, right? Like movable. And the blockchain people, you got them split between like idealists and fucking Lambos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I keep just seeing this pendulum swing. And I think that you see that the left is getting way more far left. People I knew that considered themselves left before are not anymore because that got way far pendulumed out. Or the same with the right wing. You're getting way far out. And I think it's just this like we're in the extreme of the pendulum. It's swinging really, really far. To me, what I think is going to happen is what happens when pendulum swinging is way far out like that is there's a lot of bullshit and there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of people that are talking and coming up with ideas and creating things and I think what we start to see is the bullshit will kind of all surface and then we're going to come back into a bit more balance. I think one piece that's going to become more and more apparent and needed and desired and asked for is more honesty, more transparency, looking at like how, even to this moment, for example, like with social media, I mean, you can buy fucking likes, right? So people can buy hundreds of thousands of likes or tens of thousands of likes. No longer can you trust if there's good reviews on Amazon or if you've got good reviews on Yelp or if you've got, lots of likes on Instagram, like no longer does that mean anything. And I think that we're going to get to a point where people are demanding that actually means something, that there's some tracking to that like there's something that's based on that is real. And that's like a piece I'm really interested in, what can be uncovered in that space, how we can start to actually put our money where our mouth is or where our thumbs up is. If you like something, you fucking give a coin to it, and it's something real that you get behind and that you can track. But I'm interested in seeing a lot of new, really like emerging ideas and ways that people can be making bigger impact in the world. This pendulum has to kind of like finish doing its thing and start to come back to a more balanced point. A lot of people are going to fall out of it for a bit and start to not have trust. And then what's going to be asked for is that the trust is what's missing. So who is building trust? And those are the people that are going to start to have the longevity.
You put me into a place while you were talking where I felt I had anxiety about decentralization. I'm afraid of decentralization because it might mean chaos and disorder.
What were you going to say, Justice?
I think you need to discriminate between decentralized and unregulated, because what I hear you saying is this is what happens when things are unregulated rather than decentralized. Decentralized, I think, is different than what you're saying, but in like an unregulated place where people are able to do what they want, create what they want, interact and ask for things from people in whatever capacity they want, you're going to get the whole spectrum of things from legitimate projects to complete scammers who are only trying to make as much money from as many people as possible before disappearing back into the shadows,
Yeah, and I'm interested in just hearing more voices. For the most part, I've heard a lot of white men in this industry, and this time that we're in is also really asking for more inclusivity. And I want to start to hear voices that are people of color talking in this space. I want to hear people that are in more of the developing world, but I want to hear more of those voices and what is crypto doing in different countries around the world. I want to hear what's happening in, from the crypto perspective. Just hearing my girl in Ethiopia talk to me about crypto and understanding it from her perspective is so fascinating. And being able to hear what the possibilities are for other people around the world who don't have that platform to necessarily be heard, but who very well can be impacted in a huge way. And the same way that the internet made, education, you can take, classes at Harvard and MIT from, anywhere around the world right now. And the way that that's become sort of decentralized information, I think that we're looking at another boost of that by, and that's where I kind of was talking about the decentralization of success, what's going to happen when, people who are so, passionate and inspired and brilliant minds around the world, all of a sudden are going to be able to have access to getting some of their ideas out there in a bigger way and being able to potentially get funding.
You bring up a good point. We have this revolutionary disruptive technology that's transparent and open, and it's all still white tech dudes that have made all the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Ha! Laugh at my face. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so what do we do with that piece?
I think that if you scope out and take a step back a little bit, this is a microcosm of the bigger picture of what our world is looking like right now.
What if we as culture, as beings, we're just beginning to sense the crumbling of all identification?
It's interesting to hear you talk, because when you say it, it's I'm you're describing the end times, Gabe. That's all you're describing.
It's the apocalypse now.
Right, but
I mean, me personally, for the last 15 years, I've been skeptical of anything that the media is pushing. And so whenever they're pushing a perceived agenda, I'm wondering what the intentions are behind it.
Is there order in decentralization?
I don't know. That's a weird question.
I think we're stuck in an existential dilemma as a society.
Satoshi's vision to begin with was to create something outside the banks.
We are coming to terms with what decentralization really means. And what it means, it's kind of fucking scary, because it means there is no God, there's no truth, there's no central point of anything.
Oh, goodness. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing, I think that hearing the word trust come up a lot from you, and I feel like a lot of the people, I think there's some unifying words here that everybody who's gotten interested in this cryptocurrency blockchain world probably uses that word in some way or another, this concept of trust and of mistrust. And I think that what it's going to come back down to is actually this word trust is going to emerge as something that those who are truly building that transparency and that are rooted in something that's sustainable and that are in it for the whole and not just for making the rich richer, but really looking at impact in a bigger, broader scale. I think that that's going to be where a lot of the success starts to come from. I'm over Facebook at this point in my life. I'm not interested anymore in being in that space. And I think a lot of other people too are feeling that way. And you have a lot of people that are just starting to have just mistrusting this whole social media world. And like I mentioned, just how, you can't trust likes anymore. You can't trust consumer reporting of just if anything's honest. And I think that what we're going to see is a desire for more honesty.
I feel the winds are still, the animals have all gone away, there's an awkward quiet,
Mm-hmm.
The water in the ocean is pulling away, and there's a giant tsunami coming. And do not know when it's going to hit us.
Yeah, I mean, just what does it look like when you go from like order to a space of, you know, like whatever you want to call this. I mean, there's a moment of total chaos. So I think like that is to be expected, like going from order to disorder and then back into like, what is it actually? What is that reorganization? Yeah, like, and it's, you know, to come back to that space, there is something that you could probably look a lot at, you know, anthropology and natural systems, you know, and see some pretty interesting patterns here that we are following, you know, as a general species of like what we do. Like, classic spike of what happens when like everybody starts to get on the train, and then it's like there's that euphoria of like, this is the shit that's gonna change the world, we're all in it, like woohoo, and then it drops off and it just like goes down into this, you know, phase of like crumble, like explode. People are losing their houses and like offing themselves because they lost all their money. And you know, I've watched people that have like literally gone from thinking they're millionaires to being like, fuck, I'm like in debt now again, this is bullshit, fuck the market, you know, and being super depressed over the whole thing. And I think that yeah, I think we just need to like watch and see how this is gonna like level back out again. A lot of bullshit's gonna have to like fall away before it's gonna come back again into something that's inspiring and actually like impactful. I think there's gonna be a phase of just like all the bullshit needs to fall away.